Hey y'all, how are you? It's Karen Mayer Cunningham, Special Education Boss. I hope everybody is excited tonight. We are excited. It is another super duper manic Monday. Oh my goodness, how are y'all? It is Monday, isn't it? We are trying to get all of our fancy schmancy settings right, and we are not fancy or schmancy. So welcome. If we haven't met, I'm Karen Mayer Cunningham, Special Education Boss, training everyone that sits at the 504 IEP table to navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes. We're very excited about this, the Epic IEP. The Epic IEP, it is a book that's coming out soon. You'd like to order it. It is my book. It is at theepiciep.com, and you will unlock pre-order bonuses. We're excited about you guys having that.
Great. How can I tell if my child's IEP has everything in it that should be there?
Well, that's a really good question. Right now, we are in a series, and the Epic Academy that we have every Monday night, and you should join. That's where you get all of your questions answered live. But we're in a series right now, every page of the IEP, to make sure that you're getting what your child needs. There's 143 pages in an IEP, and if you don't know what's missing, that's problematic. But everything that goes in your IEP comes out of a pristine, prescriptive, puffy present levels, and often the present levels that we see are not pristine, prescriptive, or puffy. They're usually pitiful. They have good intention, but they don't give the educator, the para, the teacher, the service providers enough information to properly teach that student.
I'm a special ed para for 9th grade, and what would my job description be?
Your job description as a paraprofessional, it depends on, there's different levels. Usually there's 1, 2, or 3 levels. And that is to support the general ed teacher, to support the special ed teacher, everything from assisting in class, guiding children, providing instruction after the special educator has provided that initial instruction under their direct supervision, and watchful eye and close proximity. But those instructions and obligations would be given to you by your leadership.
My student has an IEP, and the team is not meeting until 9 days after my student's annual is due. Is this okay?
So, I mean, we have to have an IEP by the annual date. So often there's, scheduling differences, and so we get an agreement from the parent to extend that date. And so that should be approved by the parent, and you can extend that date.
What happens if I ask for an IEE? How do I get that scheduled and paid for?
Yeah, so an IEE is when you disagree with an evaluation, the components of evaluation, the sections of an evaluation, the data summary or conclusion, and you would just let the school know that I disagree with these components of the evaluation and am requesting an independent education evaluation at the expense of the district. The district will then provide you a list of vendors that do those types of evaluations. The parent chooses, the parent makes the student available depending on the kind of evaluation it is. There might include some observations at the school. Once it's completed, then that vendor still provides, once that vendor has completed the evaluation, they provide it back to the school district. They review it, then the district provides it to the parents, and we set up an IEP meeting to review those results.
What if the school district never tried the LRE and placed them straight into self-contained? Is that a violation?
So LRE is not a location, it's a consideration. So there are children that will never be in general ed. That is their LRE. But certainly we have an obligation to educate students with disabilities to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers with strategy supports and supplementary aids. If we can't do that successfully, then we certainly look at a more supported setting. And sometimes that is out of the general ed classroom.
Why is there a push for mainstreaming and avoiding specialized schooling for all students?
Do you want to know my real opinion? It's cheaper. I wish it was something more glorious than that, but it's not. And so we've always had a shortage of special educators for the last 50 years. And, 10 years ago, I couldn't get a child included in general ed, and now we struggle to get kiddos the right supports and settings they need, whether that's in-class support, co-teach, special education, resource, those sorts of things. So it's always, flip-flopping.
My daughter has been diagnosed recently with Tourette's. Can they kick her out of class for things that she cannot control?
No, and Tourette's is an OHI. It's an other health impairment. So I've served many kids over the years with Tourette's. You want to reach out to the TAA, the Tourette's Association of America. They have a great outreach program nationally, even at the district level, so they could come and provide education to that campus, whether it's your city, county, or school district, about the impact and effects of Tourette's syndrome.
If a student has plateaued in their skills, is it appropriate to have a step back and go into self-contained for a few hours a day?
I would have to have more context in what it means to plateau in their skills. We certainly, if we can, we adjust the modality in which we're teaching them, the depth and breadth of what we're expecting them to produce. But if they're not successful in a setting, we always have to consider a more supported setting.
Is there a more formal notice that the school district should have for a meeting, or can a calendar invite suffice?
Oh, the old calendar. Don't you like that when you're invited to something 2 days from now at 10:47. So we're required to have IEP meetings with parents at a mutually agreed upon time. And so if the school sends an invite and we can meet that time, that's fantastic. It doesn't always happen that way, but we have an obligation to work together as school and parent till we find a mutually agreed upon time for the IEP meeting.
What do I do if my child has been suspended since August 27th?
I would need to know what were they suspended for? What was the violation? How long are they suspended for? What is the reintegration plan to return to the school district?
Can a district put a cap on the price for an IEP?
Absolutely. And all districts do. We can't say, I would like the Surgeon General to do my IEE for $20,000. There are caps in every school district, county, or city. And they can provide you those.
The school district is refusing to provide door-to-door transportation for an after-school club. Can they do this?
Door-to-door transportation for a club. So the district has an obligation to return your student back to their home or to a daycare. After-school clubs may not be covered under IDEA if they're not a content area and part of a grade.
Do you have knowledge about teachers, general education, getting denied the use of their service animals? And if so, what could we do?
Yeah, a service animal is going to be a hard one to get implemented in a school district. It just is. There's still so much lack of knowledge, period, around service animals. And so a student can have anything that they need in a school setting if they need it to access the general ed curriculum. So you would have to have an obligation to meet that burden.
My teacher is not a certified special educator. What can I do?
So I would reach out to admin and let them know that they're not certified for this content area, and when are they going to rectify that?
Does my special education child have to pass his high school in order to graduate?
No.
Or is there another way?
No. If that was the case, we would have hundreds of 30-year-olds just in the parking lot with a full beard. That sounds good, but do you see a bunch of 25-year-olds at the high school? We don't. So I think often that's used as propaganda and a fear mechanism with parents. But certainly we have a way to promote children to the next grade. And of course, there will be students who don't pass the state test. That's just going to happen.
What epic thing do you have in your hot little hand, man?
Oh, this is the epic thing that I have in my hot little hands. You guys see this? This is the Epic IEP. This is coming out in just a couple of months. This is my life's work. So this is a powerful playbook for parents, educators, and advocates navigating the special education system. So just go to the name of the book, theepic.com, theepic.com, and pre-order. It comes with lots of bonuses, and we want you guys to have this in your hand as quickly as possible.
If people want to continue their learning alongside the book, what else can they do? Would the Academy be something that they should join?
Yeah, the Epic Academy, you need to join that immediately. You guys have so many questions every week. We actually answer them live every Monday night. And so we do trainings in series, and then we open it up for questions.
Who provides reading as a related service?
So reading is not a related service. Dyslexia might be a related service. Resource reading, resource ELA might be a related service, but just related services are things like, related services are things like physical therapy, OT, occupational therapy, orientation and mobility, music therapy, in-home training, parent counseling, deaf and hard of hearing itinerant services, and intervener. So there's lots of related services, but dyslexia or reading resource is just going to be a special education service.
What would your advice be for a kindergarten child who is eloping multiple times a day, and it's happening, they explicitly said every day, so not just once or twice and infrequently, but it's consistently happening throughout the week?
Yeah, I mean, you need an FBA, a functional behavior assessment done by a professional to figure out what the antecedent is for that, what the root cause of that, and then a behavior intervention plan so that we can teach that child a replacement behavior.
Does special education, meaning speech and SAI, start on the first day of school?
Yeah, the IEP is implemented the first day of school.
My child has an IEP for a specific subject and is struggling with the curriculum. What else can I do, and what can I request?
Yeah, I mean, if the student is struggling with the curriculum, we need to look at, can they do the state standards? Do we need to accommodate it? Do we need to modify it? Or do we need to look at an alternate setting?
I am currently changing classrooms as a paraprofessional in an emotional impairment room to a CI room. What is your best advice for me as I make the move?
So I don't know what CI is. I mean, I can guess. But I mean, my best advice is always the same thing. Do not forget your who. Schools always say, don't forget your why. I don't know if that sounds a little manipulative. Don't forget your who. And the who is that student who desperately needs your support and services. And thank you for serving kiddos.
What are your thoughts on pre-IEP meetings and it looks like school personnel meeting in advance and stonewalling parents?
I mean, I think that anybody should meet in advance. I mean, we meet with our clients in advance. I think the school-based members should meet with their own team in advance. So I don't have a problem with that. Hopefully those pre-meetings help you come better prepared to the IEP meeting.
How long is appropriate to be waiting for a toileting plan? 1 full month into kinder and nothing?
No, I mean, if you need a toileting IEP goal, anytime there's a goal, anytime you have something in IEP that is not attached to an educational eligibility or minutes, we can always do a paper amendment. And so if you need a toileting IEP goal, you can do that by paper amendment.
How can I advocate for my child who needs a speech device and they are 3 years old?
Yeah, I mean, you would reach out to the school and say we were requesting an assistive technology evaluation in the area of communication. We're requesting that at least 3 applications are trialed with the student to see what would be the best communication device, and then we also want that device to be feature matched to the student.
Sorry about that. We're in school and speech services appear to be enough, but an AAC, a kiddo that has an AAC, do they also need private speech and language?
I don't know that they need private speech and language services, but they definitely need to make sure that you have AT minutes on the schedule of services page. I had a client yesterday and her daughter has a communication device that she uses very well throughout the instructional day. And on her paperwork, it said 60 minutes a grading period. So that's a little light. It's a different language. And so we need to make sure that we put enough AT minutes in it for the staff to learn how to use it. to add language to it, to add core words, to add French words, to have content, all of those things. Thanks you guys for the gifts.
I requested an evaluation with my child's school, and they are wanting to do an SST meeting. Is that normal?
Yeah, I'm not interested in your SST meeting, your RTI meeting, your MTSS meeting. I feel like you can do that without us. So those are general ed strategies. We don't need to have a meeting about that.
Can special education EA deliver SDI when given a detailed lesson plan directly from the special education teacher?
So a plan is not delivering instruction to the student from the special educator. So one of the things that we're seeing a lot in school districts is we're seeing a case manager who oversees paperwork with an educational aide, a paraprofessional, educational 1, 2, or 3 aide. The law says, and I didn't write the law. If I did, it would have lots of pink glitter on it. But the law says from No Child Left Behind and then the Every Student Succeed Act that paraprofessionals may provide instructional support services only when working under the direct supervision of a highly qualified teacher. Under direct supervision is met if the teacher plans the paraprofessional's instruction duties, the teacher evaluates the achievement of the students with whom the paraprofessional works, and the paraprofessional works in close proximity to the teacher and has frequent contact with the teacher. So I don't know how much clearer I can be than direct supervision and close proximity. And so what we see mostly as our partner advocates and myself is we see people supervising paperwork.
My child has no aide or crisis-trained staff. School only makes him apologize after something happens. What can we do?
Well, I mean, that's a response, but instead of a response, we need an intervention. So we need to, if we don't have one, we need a robust FBA, functional behavior assessment, to see what really is the root of that. If we don't get the root, we're not going to get the fruit. And for every outcome, there is always a reason, and we've got to get down to it and figure out what that is.
A student has aggressive behaviors, and the doctor has recommended a modified day. HB was attempted, but staff was hurt.
Yeah, I mean, if the acuity is that severe, then we might have to consider out-of-district placement.
What should I do if the school is forfeiting PE for my child due to lack of support?
Oh, we don't forfeit anything for the student. We provide the support. We certainly need to notify the parent that we cannot complete that part of FAPE in their IEP.
What rights do I have, and what obligations does my child's private school have?
So, I mean, you certainly have rights. Your child goes to school. As it relates to IDEA, the Individuals with Disability Education Act, that is solely covering children with disabilities in public schools who receive federal funding under Part B of IDEA. So private schools don't receive that funding.
In IEP, it states pull-out time that the school started push-in. Was I supposed to be notified?
I mean, that's a schedule change. So anytime there's a change to minutes, that's a different delivery of minutes. You would need to have an IEP meeting.
My son is on an IEP. How can I get more speech services for him?
So the first question is, what is the outcome that you want, right? So there's not really any data to support that a whole bunch more speech accelerates the acquisition of a skill. So, sort of a ballpark for elementary kids, we're going to be looking at about twice a week. Junior high, maybe once a week. High school, maybe once every other week, if that. So we deliver the therapy, and then we work on GMF, generalization, maintenance, and fluency. So the first question I would ask is, dear speech and language pathologist, are the things that you're working on with my student during your setting, are the other teachers working on reinforcing that?
Can the school deny observations in class when the parents request them?
Yes. Yes, the district has no obligation to allow you to see an ongoing instructional day. For me, I feel like when we have parents come to the school and do observations, I feel like the school is going to make it look as good as possible for the parent, which is what I would do. But I think a better question is, what do we think is the need and how do we address that? I would ask for observations from the district leadership. If it's a behavioral need, if it's an academic need, and maybe that other set of eyes can give you the information that you need.
The schools give support beyond the IEP. The child is in counseling all day, but the IEP only says 30 minutes.
Yeah, if a child was in counseling all day long, I don't know that public school, it would be an appropriate setting, maybe out of district placement for a more therapeutic setting. And somebody asked, where can I get your blazer? That's where we all get blazers, where Travis gets his blazers, and Alan, and Bob, and Joey. Talbots. We wish Talbots would sponsor us, don't we? They haven't yet. I don't know what they're thinking.
And an 11-year-old with high-functioning autism and ADHD needs support with accommodations. Any suggestions on what I should be asking?
So when you say he needs support with accommodations, do you mean his accommodations aren't being implemented? Or do you think he needs a higher level of support in special ed minutes? So often we have so many accommodations, they really should be turned into special ed supports.
What is the Special Education Academy and when does it happen?
Yeah, so it happens every Monday night. It's our ongoing professional development. It's ridiculously amazing. And we teach in series, and then we open it up for all of the students to ask questions.
My son received 180 days of DAEP for 2 girls making a false report on top of him being in for 50 days. What can I do?
If it's that sort of situation, you might consider getting counsel. That sounds like it might have turned into a legal issue, and I am not an attorney.
I just took my child off of his IEP, and then they are due to miss time, and it appears a 504 may be better. What might that look like? When to consider a 504 versus an IEP?
Right. I think I've considered it once in all my years of doing this. An IEP is an individual education program. A 504 is not a program. It's not individualized. We're not measuring anything. We're not mitigating anything. If you think your child solely needs accommodations, probably most of them would be implemented anyway by the staff. But certainly if you don't think your child needs any more special education, that is something that is taught above general ed, then you might consider a 504.
How do you address refusal to implement 504 plans in extracurricular classes and in any class that a student has?
So when you fill out the 504 plan, it will have like a grid, and it will say here are the accommodations and which classes they are to be delivered in. So you might go back and look at that to make sure that that grid is properly populated.
How can someone get an advocate through your team?
Yeah, just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com.
Admin put my child in self-contained without amending the IEP. Who do I need to contact?
Your IEP facilitator, whoever books those meetings, and I would call a meeting immediately. Yeah.
Can a student with a 504 be denied accommodations because in the future they will be in AP classes?
So, an AP class doesn't mean you don't get your accommodations. You're going to be hard pressed though to find special ed support in an advanced class, but if the student needs the accommodation, we deliver it. However, really have to consider, is the AP class appropriate for my child based on his disability? If he needs multiple accommodations in an AP class, it may not be the right setting for him. And remember, IDEA talks about giving children with disabilities access to general ed curriculum slowly.
Does AT need to be included in the child find evaluations if the parent has the data?
Assistive technology, of course, is related services under IDEA. But every annual IEP meeting, we are required to look at the consideration and need for assistive technology.
What do you do if you do not get your IEP following a meeting, or if the school does not send you IEP progress reports for your child?
So I would request the IEP that we signed and codified. You shouldn't have to wait more than 5 days. IEP progress reports are commensurate with grading period. So if you've already had a grading period and you didn't get your IEP progress report, I would just reach out to the school and get it. Sometimes they're in a portal or kryptonite or a chimney. I don't know where the school puts them sometimes. Sometimes they make it a little bit difficult.
Our 14-year-old child is deathly afraid of bugs and will not go outside. How can we write accommodations for the school and make sure that they're taken care of in the school setting? So
not wanting to go outside because of a fear, I mean, that would be more, not really accommodation, that would need to be an IEP goal. Again, you're looking at access to the general ed curriculum. I'm not exactly sure how you would accommodate that. Obviously, there's going to be bugs outside sometimes. There's going to be bugs inside. So we live in Texas. You know, we have the onslaught of those goofy grasshoppers or whatever those are. The love bugs, right? The love bugs. Oh, they're everywhere. So I don't know how you would eliminate bugs in a school building or outside.
My son cannot function in general education. Can they make him move from general education to self-contained?
They can propose a more supported setting, which could be resource or a self-contained setting. Sure.
What happens to a school district when they are out of compliance?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing, unless somebody brings it to the attention of the state education agency, or a due process hearing to an impartial hearing before a state hearing officer, or you bring it to the attention of the Office of Civil Rights under the U.S. Department of Education.
And the school said they switched my son's speech delay to a speech disability. What does that mean?
Nope, I don't know. It sounds like semantics to me.
What data shows a student needs a therapeutic setting?
A therapeutic setting, again, is going to be that out-of-district day placement. You would have to have data that supports that what the child needs doesn't exist in the school district. So if you can meet that burden, then that should suffice.
Sounds like this is from an administrator. ES students don't respond to anything but a stern talking to. Is that okay when we are trained differently?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the stern talking to. I come from a long line of stern talking to recipients. I think that being clear and linear with the expectations for a student is appropriate.
How do I push for an evaluation instead of an SST meeting? The school is wanting to do this first.
Yeah, I would say an SST meeting has nothing to do with the parent. SST or RTI or MTSS is a mechanism that general ed teachers need. They don't have to have any meeting with anybody.
Can you help navigate special education needs for students transitioning into college?
So when you get to college, you don't need a special education advocate. There is no special education. When you go to college, you will meet with the disability office and talk about considerations of the accommodations that you would need.
Who is supposed to progress monitor students' IEP goals?
The person under the goal. And so we just did a little training on this. So under the IEP goal, it will say implementer or evaluator. Those are the persons required to work on the goal weekly and collect data on it.
Is one-to-one support the same or different than a one-to-one aid? The school seems to think that they're different.
The one-to-one support might be providing different things. The one-to-one support might be providing an educational product. The one-to-one support might be providing nursing. The one-to-one support might be solely redirecting the student. If you're providing nursing, you would have to be, what's the word I'm thinking of? A nurse. If you're providing academic support, you would have to be certified in that area. If you are there for solely safety and redirection, then you would need to be an employee of the school district. So yes, there you need to really line out what that person's duties are.
What is the difference between self-contained and restraint?
So a restraint is for a student at a public school that is hurting themselves or others. That could be for any student in the school district. Self-contained is a setting where there are solely disabled children. I'm going to answer a couple of questions in here. So there's a question that keeps getting asked: is sort of a day placement count towards minutes? So if the students are receiving an education out of placement, but it's like a psychiatric placement, that wouldn't necessarily be an educational out of district day placement.
Is it normal for special education teachers to not give weekly tests on time, like spelling tests?
I mean, the rate at which educators test what they've taught is solely their discretion.
I think this is a statement. In a class of 22 students, there are 4 students that receive special education services.
Okay. Are you asking me if that's too many students? Is that appropriate? So there's no statute that says this many kids can have an IEP and then there's the cutoff. There are some state regulations that give you a range. Again, that's so individualized, and you might have 10 students who struggle with spelling, and you might have 1 student who struggles with behavior that is severely, impactful. So it just depends on the unique circumstances of the student.
This is a comment to our earlier AP question, but I think it's great to hear. I am a special education teacher working with deaf hard of hearing students. Many of them thrive in AP classes.
That's awesome.
Does outpatient not count as measurable data for students?
Yeah, so that was a question I asked earlier. Outpatient is not part of an individualized education program, so we can certainly use that data to talk about the student's needs, but it doesn't count towards IEP minutes.
The school is pushing for autism category while the parent wants services under SLD category. The school refuses. What can we do?
So the eligibility opens the door for services. So the characteristics of autism are unbelievably different than the characteristics of one or more of the 9 SLDs. So both things could be true. We could have both eligibilities.
I'm a para meeting functional minutes, but all I do is manage behaviors.
Thank you for serving our kiddos.
How do I handle if my administration does not do anything about a student that hits staff?
So if I have somebody at the school that is not being taken care of, that is a child, or we can't mitigate their behavior and other children are being hurt, or that child is hurting other people, I would call Child Protective Services. We have an obligation in schools to keep everybody safe, and if that's not occurring, then I would reach out to Child Protective Services and see if they can't provide some support.
Can you help me and guide me to get reading and spelling services for my 6th grader?
Yeah, I mean, you would first have to identify a deficit. So it's really important that we come to the IEP meeting with our own data. So when I have parents go to an IEP meeting, I have them do a 3-minute cold read, a 3-minute cold write. Maybe they could, do a release state test, and you can show the acuity that way. But if there's an educational need, then we certainly, if it rises to the level of an IEP goal, then we have to write that and support that.
Does ABA therapy for autism outside of the school system require children to be homeschooled?
No, I mean, anybody could go to ABA, private ABA, as long as the clinic accepted them as a student or a patient.
My son went from 3K to K and now has a preschool IEP. What do we do now? K school wasn't providing the services.
I mean, you have to look at a setting that can provide the services. Was it online K-school? Is that what you mean? They didn't provide services?
How do I find an advocate to attend my upcoming ARD meeting, and does it cost?
Yeah, all of our advocates are fee-based advocates, and you can reach us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. If you need somebody that's not fee-based, you could always reach out to Disability Rights. They take a limited number of families annually based on specific criteria. You could also reach out to your DOE, your Department of Education, or state education agency. They might have a list of advocates, and some of them might do things pro bono.
How do we address dyslexia in the IEP meeting? In 6th grade now, the plan just is not working.
Yeah, I don't know that I would ask for dyslexia for 6th grader. I think I might ask for reading resource support. That way that reading resource teacher can do all 4 of those areas, right? Dyslexia, basic reading, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. That's what I would do. And my location is Houston, Texas.
When a student has access to breaks on their IEP, how does that look in the classroom?
You've really got to tease that out, right? Breaks is so general. I'm like, is that every 3 seconds? Is that once an hour? So you want your IEP accommodations to be so pristine that nobody has a question about them.
When does Section 9 of the IEP get used when it comes to extracurricular activities and school-sponsored sports?
So I'm not sure what Section 9 of the IEP is. When you're talking about extracurricular activities, i.e. Sports or marching band or debate or those things that are a content area in your schedule and part of the participation exists after the instructional day, then at those moments the IEP would be implemented. But if you've joined, the domino club or, the square dancing chorale, that may not be covered under your IEP. Remember square dancing? How old am I? Oh.
My daughter is dyslexic and has an IEP. She was sent to the AEP for verbal altercation. What can I do about this?
When we send a student to an alternative education placement, we are charged with writing a new FBA so that hopefully we don't have that problem again. But we have to make sure that that's being, that you've signed notice and consent and they're doing that testing while she's there.
I was just going to ask, what's that sound? What are you tapping on?
What am I tapping on? So this is our brand new book, the Epic IEP. We want you guys to have it. It is my life's work. It is a powerful playbook for parents, educators, and advocates navigating the special education process. So you guys are going to be so excited. It's for all of us. And at the end of every chapter, there's a checklist for advocates and teachers and parents so that we can all be on the same page serving kiddos. So you just go to the epic.com, and you can pre-order, and we have bonuses. So aren't you guys glad that there's a book? Who's glad there's a book? Is anybody glad? I think we're all glad. We needed a book, didn't we? Yes.
Looks like a follow-up to one of the questions we just had about DAEP. So the school failed to implement social skills. So sounds like one of the 2 questions, they had a little bit of a challenge there.
Yeah, again, these things happen sort of quickly. So one of the things at the meeting is, did we implement the IEP? We cannot penalize a student for not implementing the IEP. So hopefully you had an MDR, a manifestation determination resolution meeting to address that. Somebody said, where can I buy the book? You buy the book at the epic.com. You buy the book at the epic.com. The Epic IEP. And I would like to say that it's epic. It is epic.
It is epic. I've read it. It's epic.
Yeah.
Great resource for parents, teachers, and advocates. Great questions and resources throughout the book. What makes a general education setting just that? General education. There are 14 DCT kids in one class with 6 general education students. Is that still an ed setting?
So the general ed setting means that there's a teacher of record who is a highly qualified teacher in that content area teaching the state standards. That is a general ed class.
I had an MDR that was agreed to, yes. They didn't say which question, but then there was an escalation. Oh no, I've lost all my questions. There we go. Start over on that one. Had an MDR that was agreed, yes. Then an escalation, and my son got 4 days OSS, and then we had another MDR. Is that how we're supposed to do it?
It's a little complicated, right? So we have to have an MDR, manifestation determination resolution meeting, if they are out of placement for 10 days. Sometimes we do that earlier, sometimes we don't do it earlier. Depending if there's different behaviors that happen, different escalations, they might require a different response.
A gen ed student, Kinder, ASD, ODD, and ADHD, has destroyed the room, and I have to wait 6 weeks for MTSS. Is this right?
No, you don't have to wait for anything. I mean, if there's a behavioral need, we address it right away. We don't wait 6 weeks. That would be silly.
If I requested a different para due to safety concerns with my 5-year-old autistic eloper, is this something that I can ask for, or do we have to have an IEP meeting to discuss?
So staff members are staff members. If there's a staff member that you believe that's implementing their child's IEP that it's not able to implement that IEP, then I would certainly reach out to the principal.
Can the school give IFF to a child when behavior is manifestation of the disability and it's covered in the BIP?
They can remove them from placement for up to 10 days before having the MDR, the manifestation determination resolution meeting. Hopefully we don't wait that long. Hopefully we do not wait that long.
We have a school district that is not providing transportation to our students. Help, what do we do?
So transportation is a related service under IDEA. So I'd reach out to the principal and ask when the totality of the IEP is going to be delivered.
My son still attends school if he does ABA services through my insurance. I was told homeschool.
Yeah, so here's the thing with ABA. ABA is an amazing intervention, right? But there's a requirement now for kids to be in school, right? I think 2 legislative sessions ago, we passed it in Texas. It's actually called seat time, that you are required to be in your seat. Additionally, if you don't have your child at school for the instructional day, you pretty much have waived your rights under IDEA because you can't implement the IEP if he's not there. So for me, if you were my client, I would say, they're 2 completely different modalities, special education and ABA. So I would just ask the family, which one do you think is more paramount right now for the student to have? And I would just recommend that the parent decide which modality to do it for now.
Thoughts on one-to-one with a kinder who has ASD, is nonverbal, and placed in gen ed, who also refuses to do work?
Tell me what the question was again.
Thoughts. Your
thoughts. Yeah, so the point of inclusion is for one thing, meaningful benefit, right? And so if we can modify, supplement, and change the methodology and the learner expectation to where there's a meaningful benefit in gen ed, then let's do that. But just having a child in the class that is not participating, not getting a benefit from, that would be a hard sell for me.
Can a teacher serve self-contained students and resource students in the same classroom? No. Nope. Can you fight if the school district is reducing speech and occupational therapy? If so, how do we fight it?
Yeah, and so it's not about fighting it. It's about, if the district wants to reduce any sort of special education service, I would say it sounds like you are about to present some data that supports that recommendation. And let's see it. And we need you to screen share it, graph it. But I just want to reduce it does not meet the threshold for reduction.
Is there a certain credential to be an ESE teacher? If so, how do we know?
Your state will have the requirements to be an ESE teacher.
Okay, I saw that book. Where can I buy it?
Oh, you can buy this book, the Epic IEP at the epic-iep.com. Just go there, and then you can pick from your favorite book provider, and then come back and put in your information, and then you will unlock your bonuses. Who doesn't like a bonus? I love a bonus.
Special education in-class support minutes need to be in class daily, or just the number of minutes total?
So we would assume that they are, if we have them by the week, we would assume that they're divided by the days they're at school. But that's something you would want to ask from your district. How are we delivering them?
How can I change a teacher's bias when I know they haven't even read the IEP? My kiddo has dyslexia and ADHD. You
can't change somebody's opinion. That's tough. Thank you guys for pre-ordering the book. Certainly you try to work with that instructor. If it's not a fit at all, then I would certainly, respectfully go to the district and to the principal and say, this is not going to be a successful year for my student in this classroom. Can we look at another provider of instruction?
What happens if someone claims to be a school psychologist in the IEP meeting and they aren't one? What do we do?
I would light that candle called pants on fire. I don't like that. I don't like that. The good news is, if I'm in a meeting and I ask, Travis Scott, are you in fact a resident of Montana? I can find out if that's true. So if you're a certified whatever, your certification exists on a public platform that I can confirm. Yes, the book will be available in audio version. I believe the audio version will come out in February, but this book comes out in January, so we're releasing that first. So if you go to the epic-iep.com, it will take you to your favorite book fulfillment person. You choose one of those, order your book, come back, put your information in, and it will unlock all of your bonuses.
Yes, get those bonuses now.
Bonuses. We like the bonus doesn't include a hairspray because they wouldn't let me ship that. But if they would have let me, you can't ship hairspray anymore. Like when you go to the office, the post office, is there any aerosol in here? After they look at me, I'm like, no. Why would you think that, sir?
What are the 9 specific...
Oh, something happened. You just moved into a coffee can.
What?
Yeah, try again.
What are the...
There you go. Now you're back. It moved into hello. But you're back now.
I didn't even move. Okay. What are the 9 specific learning disabilities?
I think that you were having a minor manifestation.
Oh, man.
The 9 specific learning disabilities. I knew you were going to ask me that. So they are 4 in reading, dyslexia, basic reading, reading fluency, reading comprehension, written expression, math computation, math calculations. Do I get that right, or is it math problem solving? It's one of those. And then oral expression and listening comprehension are the 9 SLDs. Yep, and here's the book. Here's the book. This book is what you need if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're Epic, if you're an advocate. Go to the epic-iep.com. Pre-order. You can just pick from your favorite book fulfillment person there, and then come back and put your information in, and that will unlock all of your bonuses. We love bonuses.
What do you do when admin has put several students on reduced day due to staffing? No BIP, no intervention.
I have never heard of such shenanigans. I wouldn't agree to that.
Another one about how do we ask questions? Drop those in the comments, or if it's a longer question, you can press the little orange comment button and send that directly over to our team.
Yep.
How do we file complaints?
How do we file complaints for?
That is the question. So OCR and state.
So you can file a state complaint. We have trainings on specialeducationacademy.com, and then we have a training for how to file a federal complaint with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights.
How do you become an advocate through the Special Education Academy?
Yeah, so the Special Education Academy is weekly training for professional development. If you want to become an advocate, we have our 2-day Epic intensive special ed training, which is available on demand in the palm of your hand. And then we also have the mastermind.
What is that email? I missed it, to send longer questions.
Yep, the email for questions or representation or records review, whatever it is that you want, is advocate@specialeducationacademy.com.
Can a teacher decide when a child takes a break, or is it supposed to be when it benefits the child?
Well, first it needs to be specific in the IEP, right? We don't want to leave it up to somebody's discretion or their opinion. It should have been cleared by the IEP committee when they codified the annual IEP. So if there's a discrepancy, I might go back to the table to have that accommodation written really clearly. But it should be when it benefits the student.
Why do school districts not have a policy on retaliation against parents?
Well, they don't need a policy on not doing things that are illegal. So things that are illegal wouldn't be their policies. We're going to assume that they're not going to do things that are illegal. But if you believe that you have experienced retaliation, you can always consider filing a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. They cover retaliation.
Can siblings be in the same inclusive classroom if they're in different grades?
Well, an inclusive classroom would be a general ed classroom. And so unless you're in some really, 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 really tiny school district where it's like Little House on the Prairie, I don't know why you would have 2 general ed classes together.
I am a special education teacher with a caseload of 36. I teach 6 classes daily. Is this normal?
I
feel like I'm drowning.
I don't know if it's normal, but it's not unusual. So thank you for what you're doing, serving kiddos. We really appreciate it. It's not unusual. I wish it was. Is it normal? It's if normal is good, that's not normal.
My special education director and superintendent, they are the same person, want me to run a self-contained classroom with 7 kiddos and RR 12 kiddos. Is this legal?
It doesn't sound legal. Are those 2 people married? Or they're the same person? How can you be the special ed director?
They're the same person.
How can you be the special ed director and the superintendent? Is it like a little tiny island in the middle of Lake Houston? Where is that?
I need an opinion on my son's IEP and was severely bullied and has 3 fractures, and there's more to share. It's still under investigation. How can I get help, and what should I do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so sorry that happened. You can send us an email at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. If you believe that your child has been hurt or assaulted, you need to call Child Protective Services. I wouldn't wait on the district to do that.
Can the aide be the one that teaches a subject rather than the teacher?
Nope. 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 Nope.
I'm in Texas and was rejected my 5-year-old son's IEP from Washington State since he is not medically diagnosed with ADHD. What can I do?
Well, when you transfer from one state to another and you have an IEP, the district has an obligation to match that IEP in as much as possible with like services. So that had to have happened first.
What should admin do if a parent denies services for a child and evaluations have been conducted and they're cognitively low scores? Is there anything that we can do to provide support for this child?
So, I mean, a district can always provide support for children. Nothing stops them for that. In 300.111D, it says that a student doesn't even have to be listed by a disability as long as we know that the student's in need of special education and related services.
Are districts required to report incidents with special education students and staff?
Districts are required to capture incidents with students. So there would be a requirement for them to do a report, of course.
Would you consider making a child take a working lunch as a punishment without notifying the parent?
What's a working lunch? That sounds like, no, we're not doing that. And we don't punish children. If they have a behavior incident, then we look at the correct response, but we're not in the business of punishing them. Okay? All right. So, and we'll have one closing question with one sentence. I'll answer this one. Can you share why auditory processing isn't considered a disability? Yeah, it's not one of the eligibilities under IDEA. Certainly if my kiddos have an auditory processing disability, I can certainly make that part of the IEP as a medical concern and look at ways that we can support that in the accommodations, but it wouldn't rise to the level of being specially designed instruction. There's no specially designed instruction that a teacher could provide to mitigate the acuity of that disability. All right, we love you guys. If you need anything, let us know. We will see you guys tonight at Special Education Academy for our weekly professional development. Remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training.